All right, let's dive right in. This is your focused, deep dive on conceptual analysis, designed to give you exactly what you need to ace this section of your exam. We're going to cover what it is, exactly how it works, and then apply it to the big theories you'll be tested on. Let's get started.
So, first things first, let's zoom out to the big picture. What is philosophy really? And it's all about taking these huge kind of fuzzy ideas, concepts like justice or knowledge, or what it means to be good, and systematically breaking them down into smaller pieces so we can actually understand what's going on.
And that leads to a central question, and one you'll definitely see on the exam. What's the actual method here? How do you take an abstract idea and forge a really precise, solid definition for it that can stand up to scrutiny?
Well, the answer is conceptual analysis. This is the #1 tool in the philosopher's toolkit. The whole goal here isn't just to describe something vaguely. It's about laying out the exact principles that connect our main concept, we'll just call it X, to other more basic ideas, until we've built a complete, bulletproof picture.
And the result of all this work, the gold standard we're aiming for, is a definition built from something called INJS conditions. You're going to want to remember that acronym. It is absolutely critical for your exam.
So what does INJS stand for? It's individually necessary and jointly sufficient. Individually necessary means each condition is a must-have. You can't have your concept X without condition P. It's non-negotiable. Then you have jointly sufficient, which means that if you have all the conditions together, that's enough. It guarantees you have the concept X. A really solid definition needs to have both.
Let's make this totally concrete with a super simple example, the word vixen. To be a vixen, you need 2 conditions. 1, it has to be a female, that's necessary. 2, it has to be a fox, also necessary. And together, these 2 things are jointly sufficient. If you have a female fox, you are guaranteed to have a vixen. It's a perfect, airtight INJS definition.
But what about a flawed definition? Well, Plato famously defined man as a featherless biped. So, is being featherless necessary? Yep. Is being a biped, walking on 2 legs, necessary? Yep. But are they jointly sufficient? Not even close, because a plucked chicken is also a featherless biped, and that's what we call a counterexample. It totally torpedoes the definition because it's not jointly sufficient.
So this brings us to the next logical step, right? Finding that plucked chicken is how you really test a principle. So what's the formal method for hunting down these kinds of counterexamples? We use thought experiments. That's the name of the game. These are just little imagined scenarios, basically stories, that are specifically designed to do one thing: to put a principle or a definition right up against our own gut feeling, our intuition. And if they clash, you know you've found a weak spot. Okay, let's apply this whole method to a classic philosophical test case, defining knowledge. For centuries, the leading definition was something called justified true belief, or JTB for short. It's pretty straightforward. It says you know something if 1, you're justified in believing it, 2, it's actually true, and 3, you believe it. Seems pretty solid, right?
Well, let's test it. Here's the thought experiment. Imagine Anne has a watch that's always been super reliable. But without her knowing, it broke yesterday and stopped at exactly 11:03. Now the next day, just by pure coincidence, she happens to glance at her broken watch at the actual time of 11:03. She looks at it and forms the belief the time is 11:03.
And here is the conflict. According to the justified true belief principle, Anne knows the time. Her belief is true, it is 11:03. She's justified, her watch has always been reliable, and she believes it. But what does our intuition say? Our gut just screams, no way, she doesn't know the time, she just got incredibly lucky. The principle and our intuition are in a total head-on collision.
So, when you find a killer counterexample like this, a philosopher really only has 3 standard moves. Number 1, you can revise the principle. Maybe JTB needs a 4th condition, something about not being lucky. Number 2, you can dispute the counterexample. You could try to argue that Anne's belief wasn't really justified to begin with. Or number 3, you can bite the bullet. That means you just accept the weird conclusion of your principle and say, yep, our intuition must be wrong here.
And the whole point of this entire process, proposing a principle, attacking it with thought experiments, revising it and trying again, is to hopefully reach a state called reflective equilibrium. That's the ideal end goal, where your set of principles and all your intuitive judgments are in perfect harmony. No contradictions, no conflicts. Okay, now let's use this method on a huge principle that is guaranteed to be on your exam, the utilitarian principle, or UP.
This is a major ethical theory, and it basically says that the morally right thing to do is whatever action will create the greatest total amount of well-being for everyone.
So let's test it. First up, the lifeboat case. You're in a lifeboat, and you can either save one person stranded on one rock or 5 people stranded on another. What do? UP says rescue the 5, no question. And for most of us, our intuition agrees. This feels right. So in this case, the thought experiment actually supports the utilitarian principle.
But now for the famous counterexample, the organs case. Imagine a doctor has 5 patients who will all die without an organ transplant. A healthy person walks in for a checkup who happens to be a perfect match for all 5. The utilitarian principle says the doctor should kill the one healthy person to harvest their organs and save the 5. It's simple math. 5 lives are greater than 1. But our intuition recoils in horror. This feels monstrously wrong, a gross violation of the healthy person's rights. This is a massive contradiction to UP.
So why does UP fail so spectacularly here? Well, it's because UP itself isn't just one simple idea, it's actually a bundle of 5 different underlying principles. And this organs case launches a direct attack on one of them in particular, the second one, welfarism. Welfarism is the idea that only well-being matters in a moral calculation. But our intuition in the organs case tells us that other things like individual rights are also critically important. Finally, just to help you organize all this for your exam, it's useful to remember where these concepts fit. Our whole discussion of knowledge and JTB, that falls under epistemology, the study of what we can know. Utilitarianism and the organs case, that's all under ethics, the study of what we should do. And conceptual analysis itself is a tool from logic, but it's used across all the branches. And to make sure you're fully prepared, you can find a complete summary of this lesson, plus a whole set of practice tests on this exact topic over at gradeguru.nl. Now, let's just quickly recap the absolute key takeaways.
Okay, let's lock in the method. First, conceptual analysis is how we break down complex ideas. The goal is to find INJS conditions. Those are the necessary and sufficient building blocks of any good definition. We test those definitions using thought experiments. And the ultimate goal of the whole process is to reach reflective equilibrium, where our principles and intuitions align perfectly. And second, the key applications you have to know. Remember the JTB definition of knowledge, justified true belief, and its classic counterexample, the broken watch. And of course, the utilitarian principle, and its powerful counterexamples like the organs case. If you can explain these concepts and cases, you'll be in great shape. Good luck with your studies.